Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Transformation Leaders Podcast. I'm David and joined today with my co-host, Sean. And today we've got a pretty interesting show for you. Guess what we're going to talk about today? AI. And so one of the biggest problems that, we continue to hear about and that you guys continue to experience is how do you get value from AI? And more importantly, how do you get ahead of the game, so to speak? So Sean's got a fantastic deck he's built again for you today. And I am going to turn it over to Sean to kind of walk us through and kick us off on today's show. Sean?
Thank you so much, David. So this is the most common problem that I'm hearing from all of you. Okay, so several of the people who are listening right now are people that I talk to that have reached out, and I hope you do that and continue to do that. We're here for you. But one of the things they keep saying is, Sean, I understand AI is good, but my employees tell me it doesn't work. It's not going to solve problems. I hear nothing but positive things on the news of this company doing this company doing that. And what is going on? So let me try to give you a workable hypothesis of what's going on and what you need to do about it. So number one is people are calling it the slopocene, right? People are saying, hey, look, my employees keep coming to me and showing, oh, look at this garbage, look at that garbage. AI just produces slop. It's just AI slop. 95% pilot failure rates. You give these tools to developers and you see a 19% productivity decline. These are all bad news, right? So what's the deal? On one side, Sean, you keep saying, and everybody else in the media says, this technology works and it produces amazing things. And David and myself have used these tools a lot, and we know that they work. We have shown you that they work. So where is this disconnect coming from? And I make this comment, unfortunately, far too frequently now. You are asking turkeys to sign up for Thanksgiving. And this is what happens. And the trap is that employees are actively trying to preserve their jobs, right? So what's happening is they're going through and saying, look, manager, yes, you gave me AI, but look, it's not working here. It's not working here. I will give you, and I will use AI to show you that I can't do my work with AI, which is one of the most ironic stories I got last week. But it comes down to, for the most part, what's happening is leadership cannot track what these tools are doing. Microsoft, Anthropic, Google, they are not giving the businesses the tools to understand how AI is being used and what the actual value is. So what ends up is a he said versus she said kind of situation. And what happens is the management tree are like, I'm not quite sure. The employees are saying, hey, don't shoot me. And then what happens is the shareholders are like, wait a second, you spent millions of dollars on AI. Where's my savings? So the management team is stuck between a rock and a hard place. And what happens is something just recently, I believe it was last week before last, but the company Block, they went through and they said, hey, we know we can get value out of AI. And the way that we're going to break this deadlock between will we or won't we is we're just going to shoot people. We're going to take 40% of our staff and lay them off, and we're going to force them out. So basically, if you don't succeed with AI as an employee, you're gone. There's no question anymore. The turkeys who went for Thanksgiving are gone. Everybody left is safe. So you have to use these tools. And that is a very barbaric way to force this. And the point that I wanted to make with this presentation is I believe there's a better way. Dave, does that make sense?
It does. And just for the audience, it doesn't matter whether you're in leadership listening to this podcast or you're an employee and you're taking kind of that position where you're really nervous about AI, or maybe you're, doing the song and the dance showing how AI can't work. But we've kind of seen this before in the same methodology, in that when outsourcing over in India or Philippines or any another country that's cheaper than US based labor, it's like hiring a foreigner to come and sit alongside you, and then you're expected to train that person to do your job for less money. And it's the same thing with AI. It's the same thing. It's just artificial intelligence versus human intelligence. So the concept is pretty much the same. This isn't new. We've seen this before. So just how you solve that is pretty much, almost, not always, how you might tackle and try to solve for this. And a lot of it has to do with you're just going to have to bring in people above, people to manage, people to help with the change management. It's a different tack. And the approach is a little bit different, but you can get there.
So, what people are seeing is like you're asking an employee, look, I'm going to give you a tool, and transparently, you can execute your tasks in 4 hours, and your reward is to do more tasks, right? Or if I'm not being able to see what you're doing, and in secret, you are using AI, even though you say it doesn't work, and then you have tons of free time because of AI, right? So this is what management teams are looking at. And again, this is why you're seeing these tech companies, and they are certainly the canary in the coal mine on this. They're going through and shooting, in the case of Block, 40% of their employees, because that's what they see. They expect a 40% increase in productivity from their staff. So it's rational to expect the behavior that we're getting when you have this kind of table being set. Now, on one side, people are like, okay, this is a rocket engine, and we're going to attach it to our normal way of doing business. And yay, look at all that we're doing. It just doesn't make sense. You're not going to be successful. Why do things break down? Because literally what's on the left is what you should expect from your business. You're giving tools to monkeys, right? That is not the way to do it. The right way, and you have any familiar with 2001: A Space Odyssey, is evolution. You need to elevate the way that you do business. That is the way to do it. And who has the most human capital of how your business needs to be run? Your employees, right? So if you're going to do this evolution, you may want to think about who you're getting rid of, because they very well may understand this, and that you need to elevate them into an orchestration level instead of replacing them or expecting their replacement. So this is really what I recommend as a starting point. And a lot of people tell me, Sean, we're too late for this. But I don't think it's too late. The first thing you need to do is start having this conversation with your employees. Take this deck. You can download it off of our website. You can reach out to David or myself. We will send it to you. And you can educate people in saying, look, simple fact of it all is we all have to show productivity gains. It is part of your job to find and document and prove out the value that you're doing. Or you're going to end up a turkey late November. This is just like every kind of KPI and bonus objectives you need to give your employee. I know tech is moving really fast, but there's a lot of industries that are still trying to grasp how do we get people to use these tools. This is how you do it. You make it part of their job. You give them incentives. I say this all the time. You want a behavior? Let's create an incentive. And the behavior is you need to use these tools and get business value from them. You need to document that business value. You need to present that business value to the company. And that company needs to create business processes around using what you've created. And the value here is very simple. The employee gets a bonus, keeps their job, right? Commits to the business. The business is committing to them and helping them elevate out of the horse and buggy business processes into evolving their skill sets so that they become the centaur. David?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head here, and this is a great graphic. I just want to go out to say is that a lot of you, especially in leadership, are looking at this graphic, and you're probably asking the question through the screen that we can't hear you, but I know you're asking it. How do I accomplish this? How do I build this? How do I get this set up? And so the answer to that is reach out to Sean and I. The other answer is those employees that Sean was talking about, that the ones that you shouldn't let go, the ones that will help you get you to your new future state. These folks are going to be critical in helping to understand the process, understand how to get from point A to point B, because they lived in the trench the day in the life. And these are the people that Sean and I need to work with and talk to in order to build and orchestrate these types of platforms for you. These systems are not off the shelf. You can't just necessarily go off and buy one as it relates to your particular use case or business. A lot of times these will have to be custom made. Now you can use bits and pieces and parts of things that you already have and plug into that, but it's not a one size fits all type of use case and scenario. So the takeaway is that this is an ideal setup for you to be able to monitor to get to where it needs to be. But if you're just, what's the expressing? Shooting or fishing for, fish in a barrel by simply just taking a shotgun and trying to shoot into it. You're going to get some, but maybe not in the most efficient way. Others will just take a stick of dynamite and blow up the whole barrel. And that means that there's only a handful of people left. And unfortunately, in most cases, you wind up with the wrong people left. You're left with the people that are really good, maybe for sales or for other type of maybe marketing, because they're good at explaining and talking, but tactical and execution and really getting into it, you don't need to or want to be stuck with like the wrong folks that can just message stuff. You need builders. You need people that can actually go in and actually get it, roll up their sleeves and make this stuff happen, because that employee A probably is not the best. You would think that employee B is going to be the person that you might want to keep, but I would even venture to say, and Sean, I'm curious about what your opinion is, employee in C and D probably have the potential, and they might be the ones that are just using it just enough, but not maybe giving everything. And maybe they're playing that game where they're trying to fall outside of the middle because they're trying to stay under the radar, and they're playing the game really well. And they're coming in right at the middle, right where they need to be, so that they're not on the radar, but they're also not showing up on any naughty report. Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's also something that I think is incredibly valuable to do, and that is doing business process bounty boards, right? Where you go through, you sit down. We had this call about innovation before, and you have an innovation team, and you say, these are the processes that are broken. These are the processes we can't seem to fix. Well, let's give a monetary reward for somebody on their own time to figure out how to solve these problems with AI in an automated way. And then they feel bought in. A lot of times I was at a company once and they said, Sean, if you're not innovating and you haven't shown a long-term track record of innovation, we don't want you here. And then I looked at them and said, look around. Who do you know? Like, expecting a level of behavior without incentivizing it will never work. We're human beings. So I think a bounty board, excellent idea. The other thing that I keep telling people is reverse mentoring or champions, right? Go through and give people who have bought in the previous processes, giving them a promotion as a champion. So let's say that they are a consultant. They get the moniker consultant champion. And that means that they get a little bit more money, right? A little bit more freedom. And part of what they do, they have to spend 5-10 hours a week getting other people on board, right? They're the leaders, they're the AI champions. Rewarding this behavior of reverse mentoring, because I've seen this and it is so difficult for me to understand. But this idea of, okay, we're just going to do self-based learning and we'll create videos or lunch and learns and recorded and we'll get everybody out and tell them to go watch it. Well, they never do. And then they're like, well, we don't remember that. Again, expecting everybody to just keep up without any incentive is a recipe to make sure most people stay behind.
And even if you have mandatory training, I wanted to add that if you're even tracking that and people take the training, if you don't have incentives like Sean was saying, nobody's going to do anything about it. And then the next question becomes, after the mandatory training, what methods do you have to make sure that what they learned is being used and applied in the day-to-day? Because that's where the monitoring then again falls short. Just because the training's there, that's great. You got monitoring on the training, but you don't have any monitoring on uptake or anything that you've taught in that training. So it's more than just training. It's training plus how are we going to measure this in the workplace to make sure that they're following step A or B in part, in whole, or some degree thereof. So it really comes down to full strategic planning on this and more than just education.
Absolutely. So the other thing is you've got to change your career architecture, right? A software developer, a CX agent, a copywriter, a financial analyst, all of these are dead ends. I'm sorry, they're just more poultry, right? What you need to explain to people is you have the opportunity to compete for a systems architect position. We're going to have very few software developers. We're going to have a whole bunch of system architects. We're going to have a whole bunch of experienced designers. We're going to have very few CX agents, right? This is where the work is going. AI is horrible at taste, right? It is very poor at judgment. It is really boring to listen to on strategy calls. And I question how many people really truly want to be trained by AI as well. So I'll be clear, educating people and saying, look, here are the positions in 2027, the number of positions there are. In 2026, these are the other positions, and you have a year to go align to this. So you're giving a goal. So instead of just going through and telling everybody, look, everybody, we're going to give you a year paid vacation and you're gone. And you better hope you pick the right 60% if you're letting 40% go. Or you let Darwinism come in play, right? You find out who wants to be a centaur. And that's kind of the point of this. You have all these different programs to incentivize. That's the carrot. This is the stick. And I'm sorry, a lot of people understand mathematics. So if you say currently there's X number of software developers, and in a year there's going to be Y number of software developers, and you put that up and you explain it to them, that they're going to have to earn their way into these new roles, you're going to get the best type of engagement. You're going to get the best type of commitment. You're going to get the best type of engagement. And that's what you need from your employees. Now, the people who are like, look, all I want to do is software development and I don't want to do anything else and I don't want to play this game. Well, guess what? They're going to find another job, and in a year they'll be gone anyway. So what's the downside? Competition makes everybody better, and incentivizing great behavior. Now, okay, Sean, I hear right now through the screen, I can hear you, but what if all my people do what is right and elevate themselves? Then I've got a problem, Sean. Well, you've got a great problem. You got a whole bunch of people that are energetic who are trying to attack things. And guess what? You just might have solved a lot of extra problems in this year, and you've proven your value of your team to the management that they've attacked things. And if you're telling me as a management team leader that you do not have problems that need to be solved, then I need to talk to you about your performance. If you cannot figure out what needs to be done and what business problems could be solved, then you're more likely to become a turkey yourself. And I'm hearing that as well. Like the Block CEO says, hey, I'm not going to play this game of doing 10% every quarter until I get to the number. It's just going to reduce focus. Completely agree with his point on that. But, what happens in that is just what he was alluding to. I was talking to somebody that their company is doing that. And after a while, they reduce one person from the team until there's only 4 people on a team, and then the manager goes. So, this is something that all of us need to be aware of and all of us need to drive. David?
Yeah, I think, the times have definitely changed, and the architecture, slide here that you've got is completely unique in very interesting ways, and that the dynamic of what it is that you do, I would highly encourage you to try to retain those skills, because one of the problems that is, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I reserve the right to be fully wrong on this, but I do see that there's going to become a point where, if you look through the crystal ball, there's going to be scarcity of skills and scarcity of income, because we're in this transition period. But once we get to the transition period, the factory, so to speak, the assembly line, there's not going to be anything coming down the line here at some point. And this is the crux. Like, we're going to look back. Hindsight's going to be 2020. And we're going to ask, how did we get here? And it's because we jumped in on AI, and all of that was lost. And we have no choice except to decide and trust that AI is the only way forward, because there's nobody to fix what might be broken or fix what's there. So even though you need to use and learn AI, do everything you can to retain the skills, write it down, have some way of passing along that knowledge. I see online, there's so many less coding courses now. I teach on Udemy, and I have a couple of courses out there, and just talking to people in that community. I guess what I'm trying to say, the whole point in that is that knowledge is going to get lost. So I will caution, and just wanted to call out that while, yes, all of this is true, all of this is the way that it is, a different spin to also think on some of this is preserving the knowledge. And I think for leadership listening to this, you should hedge your bets, because if you've ever read, I don't have the book here. If I had it, I'd grab it, but it's called Crossing the Chasm. And so as everybody jumps across and we get to the top, the arch, the pinnacle or plateau of that, and then it either starts to decline or it just levels out, there's going to be a handful of these companies that are going to all just jump right out in. And at some point, yes, we'll be, more there. It'll be more stable. But right now we're still in the infancy. So let these companies, the majority of the companies, go all in, right? And so these are the lessons learned. You just heard about Block. Sean shared that. Like, they're taking this strategy, they're trying it. It may work. If it does work, then these are the indicators to say, hey, I need to really listen. Everything that we're talking about in this podcast specifically is so germane to the topic of your life and your business and everything that's going on. But on the flip side of it, I just wanted to kind of put a different lens on it, is that there's a lot of stuff too that's going to get lost. And as we make this transition, I just want to caution everybody to let's not lose what's coming down the line. It's okay to maybe slow it down or to thin it out, but to get rid of it completely, that's always been my concern, is that we move so quick, so fast, that hindsight's 2020. And then we all as society have broken the world, essentially, unfortunately. So keep learning, have a passion, be thirsty, contribute when you can. And that to me, that is like the best advice that I can give everybody right now, is to just kind of play that middle ground and see where things are going to land up. But don't be afraid to try anything either, because you don't want to miss the opportunity of the boat.
Well, yeah, and again, this really aligns to what you're talking about. You cannot demand innovation in an atmosphere of fear. And that is really what's going on here, and really the result that many should expect at this point. You need to reward people for efficiency gains, right? So that they could take upskilling sabbaticals. Treat human capital as a competitive moat, right? That is a moat. Now, when you lose it, you will find it, right? That you were wrong. And a lot of people do not understand this. And I remember in the mid-aughts, this was a very big issue. And I know so many companies did headcount reductions and then had to hire them back. And at that point, the trust was broken and they're paying 20, 30% on top. So again, the best possible way is to use a coherent strategy to drive AI innovation internally. And, this is kind of the scenario you have. You could go into the Slopazine death spiral where your few employees that are being forced to use it are burning out because that's all they have. And they know that if they cannot succeed, they will lose their job. So as soon as you cut that 40%, most likely the people who did survive are going to be looking for a more stable gig and are going to leave you as well. There's going to be people that you cut that are going to do the bare minimum and keep blaming AI as the reason why they are not delivering and are not being efficient. And you're going to have to cycle through a lot of the people that you lost and a lot of the people that you gained back and forth, because it's really hard to tell. The technology, unfortunately, is not giving you the tools you need to understand. So you need to use standard HR principles and wrap HR strategy on top of this technology so that you can understand who's using it and who's not. And that is really the purpose of this deck. And the question is this technology and this time in history a tide that's going to rise everybody and elevate your people, your brand, the products and services you provide to your customers? Or is this a tsunami that you're expecting to survive and you just need to mitigate the damage? And it's up to us as transformational leaders to show the difference between the two and strategies to prevent one and ensure the other. David, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, no, well said. I don't really have anything else left to add to that one other than just some housekeeping stuff for everybody. As you guys know, our website is the transformationleaderspodcast.com. So there's a QR code I just put up on the screen. And then there is the URL there at the bottom. So we are here every Wednesday at 12 o'clock noon. On the form, there are links to past shows. You've got a form that you can fill out to get a hold of either Sean or I. There's links to our LinkedIn profile, and we'll have more over the next coming weeks on how you can engage with us one-on-one or either as a group. But that's pretty much it for this show, and we will see you in the next one. So until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.